Hello, world. Welcome to Shindigs, a podcast dedicated to the ones who reach for the stars. This episode of Shindigs is sponsored by Unlimited Solutions. Unlimited Solutions, live life unlimited. Today, I have a very special guest. I'm very honored to have
Teresa?
Miss Teresa. I hear friends call you Miss Tree.
Yes.
Miss Tree. Miss Teresa. She is an American hero because she's one of the many who do the teaching field every day, and that's something that I feel like if we do give enough gratitude, we don't give enough. We need to give a lot more gratitude to our teachers, and especially here in Florida.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you
I
for.
don't feel like a hero, but I don't feel like a hero. I just
I feel like you are because when I moved here from Colombia, that was one of the main things at that age of being 9 years old and being involved in the school system and friends and everything. If it wasn't for the public school system, I don't think I would have gotten the great feeling of the United States. I came from a private school system, and from kindergarten all the way to third grade, it was all uniform, handkerchief and comb in the back pocket. And I remember actually the last few months of me being in Colombia, my mom was already here in the States. And my dad was supposed to pay for me the last few months of school, and he didn't. And yeah, they no longer allowed me to go to school, and I thought it was the best because I was,
free.
oh my God, I already knew I was coming here anyway, and to me it was the best feeling ever. And then when I moved here to the States, I entered the public school system, and the one thing that was the most electrifying for me was the no uniforms.
Free. Now we're back to uniforms at the public schools, but that's where private and public. That's the end of our differences. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Well, they did it for a lot of reasons. They said it was cheaper for families to have the uniforms. There's still a lot of debates about whether or not it's worth all the trouble of it, but when you get older, your job might have uniforms, so it's just kind of keeping things normal. But just the freedom, like no handkerchiefs, no belts, no anything. It's just wear this color and that color.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's all they do for uniforms.
No, we had regular day, and then we had a physical education day, and it was
Dress out.
Well, we need to dress up for both too. I'm from Venezuela too, so I grew up in the private school
Right.
system as well, and it was always
Uniform.
everything uniform, even for PE too. So
We some of the schools in some places in Florida actually have. You can tell your grade level by the uniform.
by
that
the
you
uniform,
have.
yeah,
So
Okay.
like the checks and stripes and things like that.
yeah.
But they said another part was the school safety. If you don't have a uniform on, then we know you don't belong. So, which if anybody's going to be unsafe on school, they pretty much plan that out and they'll wear
Yeah.
the uniform. So I see a lot of holes in that. But yeah, they just started like 2 years ago.
Now, is it a strict uniform or is it more of a dress code?
Just a dress code.
Dress code,
But
yeah.
it's a
Okay.
dress code of khakis, blacks, collared shirt.
I
So-
believe that makes sense.
It to me it looks nicer than like when we have our dress out day on Fridays. It looks kind of strange. I've gotten used to seeing it, and it just kind of is a level, even playing field for the kids, so that your clothes is not indication of your status and
Oh,
things like that.
absolutely.
So part of the bullying
Okay.
initiative and things like that.
Good psychological way to get that
Yeah,
out.
right. Yeah. We still, your shoes. Well, they'll look at your shoes and
Oh yeah.
you got Payless Bogos on, or you got these shoes.
Yeah.
But kids are
The Shaqs
yes.
instead of the Jordans.
Yeah.
No, I remember that was and I agree with that 100% because growing up, I remember my mom. I was on a $20 a week budget, and my mom would always buy me the shoes a size and a half bigger, so I would grow,
Grow
into
into
them.
them.
And skating, that was a bad thing because having that extra shoe in the front would make you miss
flip-
your tricks and sometimes roll your ankle the wrong way. So I started working at a young age. I started working at Mexico at 13 years old.
So you
And,
could get shoes to skate.
Well, yeah, and not just shoes, but I remember it was the clothes because that's how I could show the status to the kids
in.
and
Exactly.
show them this person who I watching TV. I wanted to show them who, yeah, and I remember I would just buy tons of clothes and shoes, and silly stuff, but that was the reason for that. I believe that if we would have had that dress code, I would have saved a lot of money
Yeah.
on that, and I wouldn't have had that mentality.
But you have the work ethic now that you wouldn't have had before. So it all worked out.
Everything happens for a reason. Absolutely. No, but I've been doing my homework with you a little bit. I don't. I want to. I feel like I always had a strong connection with teachers, even though I had failing grades. But that was my fault because I remember teachers would stay after class, after school, and to try to help me. And once they were helping me, they would tell me like, "Why don't you try? You got it. You got it in you." And I just never.
Well, before you beat yourself up, it's sometimes, especially you coming from another culture and another school and another language, you had failing grades, but you were in a system that wasn't suited for you. And that happens so many times with when people come from different cultures speaking English not as their first language. Like we're asking you to do all this stuff and your brain is still like translating. So imagine like math. Like I want you to do this, this, and this with these numbers. Math itself is hard enough, but now you need to translate it all and make it make sense. And so you probably got failing grades because you weren't being taught the right way.
And I remember my
Take it easy.
well, I remember my mom would kind of scold me and tell me like, "How are you failing on math when math is the universal language?"
But they're asking you in not the universal language. So it's there's you could mistranslate one small thing or get a concept wrong, and it's abstract thinking. So it's very easy to have
No, I
those
guess
pitfalls.
that's amazing how you could like see how people generalize in the big
Oh yeah,
in the big scheme of things. It's crazy.
Education is like this broad brush, and this is how we're gonna teach everyone, and this is what we're gonna do. Well, I know you come in at 9 years old, and you are still learning English, but I'm gonna teach you in all English, and I expect you to understand everything.
Yeah.
So that's what happens.
Yeah, it's
And actually
important detail.
when I first moved here, it was in Miami, and in Miami it was all Spanish. It was all Spanish, and it was actually great because I felt like I was ahead because coming from Colombia, I was in third grade and I was already doing division, and they were just starting division here, and I speaking Spanish and everything, it was going great, and then it wasn't until I moved to Marietta, Georgia, that they didn't have an ESOL program at all. That's when I failed my first year of third grade. Didn't quite fail it. I just didn't finish it, and then I moved here to Edgewater, and it was Edgewater Public Elementary, and it was their first year of having an ESOL program. And there was another Spanish kid that only spoke English. So I was literally the only Spanish-speaking student in the whole school.
And probably none of the teachers at Edgewater
Nobody.
had a grasp of Spanish.
I remember they were just my the I guess the solution for it, like they would, because I would get pulled out of the reading class and all that stuff, and I didn't have to do it. I remember the kids doing the work and I didn't have to do it. That was the
That
solution.
was their solution to teaching you is
And-
we can't teach you so you don't have to do it.
Yeah,
Good.
I felt like I was like right on. Like I remember one of
No
the
uniforms, don't have to read. School's awesome, yeah.
one of the FCATs, they read it to me, and I remember that clearly because when they stopped reading it to me, I'm like, yo, why aren't you reading it to me this year?
Right.
They're like, no, you have to, and I'm like, no.
I'm going to read it to you for the test, but I'm not going to read it to you to learn. Yeah, doesn't make sense.
So that and I'm not trying to knock Edgewater Public because Edgewater Public, I feel like it's one of the most advanced schools, elementary schools here for the education system. I say that because I have a family member who is autism, and he lived right next to Indian River, and they didn't have a program suited for him, so
Right.
Edgewater was the one who, I mean, he lived literally door to door
Next
to
door,
Indian River. So props to the Bobcats for
Yes.
definitely.
I was a Bobcat for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Miss Yusabo. I remember Miss
Yeah,
Yusabo.
it's wonderful. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, I worked with her.
I
yeah.
love Miss
Yeah, yeah.
Yusabo.
She's one of those teachers where it was her passion.
It's my duck lady.
And she would take that time. Yes, I could see her pulling you aside and taking time. To
Oh,
say,
I was actually right here next to her.
Yes.
That was my first
She's
teacher
very
who,
sweet.
because she came in to fourth grade when I was in fourth grade, and
Mm-hmm.
she said, she told me, she's like, you're not gonna push me down, and she put me. I was the first teacher that I was sitting right next to, and that's when I excelled, and and not just that, but I love the fact that I was excelling because I'm used to always failing, and I actually kind of like took
Started getting
pride
it. Mm-hmm.
in the failing. I'm like, yeah, I'm failing,
So
right on,
she's a hero.
absolutely.
She's a hero. She made
Oh,
you.
to this day.
But there's kids who don't get that Miss Husabo, and so instead of going the direction you went, school is not as much fun, and then we're failing, and then behavior problems, and you can see how things can go really bad really quick if they don't get what they need in school. So
And are you familiar? Cause another Miss Weaver at the Edgewater Elementary.
yes, I was short Miss Weaver. She was tall Miss Weaver. The
Oh,
other one was she was June Weaver. She was like
yes,
6 feet tall, and I
she
was
was
5 feet tall.
she was
She was a
another
guidance
hero.
counselor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. She was another hero to me because again, I didn't know how to speak English well, and I remember that's when our fourth grade class was mixing with what we were going to art class, and in art class there was this one girl, and she's actually in tune with this podcast, very very in tune, and her name is Fernanda, and a friend of mine, Bruce, and we were picking on her, kind of picking on her, and she was crying. So whatever he was saying, she kept crying more. So I'm like, yeah, kept saying it some more, and he was in ESC because of temper,
Uh-huh.
and that's when they mixed that class with our class, and him
For
and I were like tight. He was, I mean, we would have sleepovers, and we met through that art class. But yeah, he was making this girl cry and cry, and whatever he was saying was making her cry. So I'm keep saying it some more. So then, we got taken to the principal's office. Miss Weaver was taking care of my case, and she was telling me, she's like, why were you saying this stuff? Because I guess the stuff I was saying, I don't want to say it on the podcast, but they were
it
bad.
was bad.
Like it wasn't a principal issue, it was a counselor issue. So she's like, where did you learn this stuff? And I'm like, oh, I don't know what it means.
I'm just following this guy
Yeah, and
who's
who
got
is my
temper
buddy?
who's my buddy but has temper issues. But you know what?
And
It's
now
fun.
and now is doing absolutely awesome. Bruce, shout outs to my friend Bruce. He's all into his health and has a beautiful daughter, beautiful young daughter. She's smart as she could be, and he's a very smart individual as well. But we had issues
You're
growing up.
fourth grade boys.
Exactly.
Yes, boys will be
Exactly.
boys.
but yeah, Miss Weaver, she actually got me started in you're familiar with the Outsiders, the Surfing Foundation, and that's how I got introduced to the surfing world.
Wow. So that all, like you said, everything happens for a reason. Unfortunately, you had to make a girl cry, but that's all right.
We're
you know.
now friends actually. But yeah, no, I remember it was there were tough words. There were tough words, but growing up here, I never once and now you actually just said it. I never once not had fun in school here, even though I never did well academically. Teachers always, they were always there to help me. They were always help, and I never not once felt like I didn't have that backup. If anything, I felt like I had too much backup, and I think I took advantage of it.
Oh yeah. Well, good for you for recognizing that at least.
So, decades of teaching, correct?
Decades. Over 35 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
a long time.
And your
That
husband
sounds
as well.
wow. That sounds like a long time when I say it.
With you and your husband combined, what would that be?
38 and 28, 66 years.
So
of teaching.
66.
And I am a child. I have in a family of 6, and my parents are both teachers. My dad taught for 42 years. My mom taught not as long. She took off for kids, but my dad taught for 42 years, retired. My mom taught and retired, and my brothers are teachers. My sister's a principal, and my other sister's a speech pathologist, and my other sister teaches at university level. So all 6 kids are in teaching.
It's in the blood then.
It's
your
in the
calling.
blood. We are
Wow.
we are a poor but happy family. Yeah, and I'm married to a teacher, and one of my brothers is married to a teacher.
So the
So Christian was right. You are a hero then.
Absolutely.
It's education it's in our blood.
so
Yeah, it
you
wasn't-
played school growing up. You played teacher growing
No,
up.
but I just never realized, like, my dad always had off. Like, when we had off, my dad had off. So I just thought everybody in the world, like, when we don't go to school, nobody goes to work. Everybody
That's-
stays home.
That's awesome.
And my dad used to run a Saturday program at his school. So he would just open the gym so kids could come. So they had a place to go and run and play. And he would just open it up at 9 o'clock. And at noon, he'd play this fantastic game called the coat and hat game. And it would just be dodgeball, but when you got out, he'd say, "Get your coat and hat," and that's how you got to go home. So he'd play the coat and hat game, and we always had like a PE equipment in our garage. Like, he'd take the bases from school, so our street was literally, we had the bases on it, and
When you say street, was that
just like
no,
suburbia.
where was it? Was it up?
New York, Long Island, New York.
Oh,
So
Okay,
it
because
was-
I'm imagining already the tall buildings, every the kids playing.
No, yeah, it was just, the school was just, it was like an old school, but it was like Edgewater Public, and so he would
Okay,
just,
okay.
where the auditorium was, he would just open it up and say, "Guys, come." He would do the same thing in wintertime. There was a skating rink, and he'd say, "Okay, Reynolds was his name, Mr. Reynolds is going to be at the skating rink tomorrow afternoon," and all the kids would come, and he would just skate with them and
That's awesome.
just do that kind of thing. He was great. But that's what we grew up with, so that's how we, that's what we were always around him for that.
The lifestyle.
So that's what we
almost.
became, yeah.
Now, again, going back to this hero theme, teachers dedicate a lot of their time, off time, to their students,
Yes.
as well as financial. They dedicate a lot of their financial off their, school financial to their students.
Right.
Is that again the passion, or is that something that you just see that these kids need this?
There's probably no teacher who is expecting to make a lot of money from teaching. No one is going into it for the money. And if they do, they don't last very long. And when you have these kids come into your room, you're in charge of their growth, not just academic, but if you don't have a warm jacket, if you didn't eat breakfast, or if you didn't eat the cafeteria food because you don't like the way it tastes, you can't function in my classroom if you haven't eaten a good meal. You can't function in my classroom if you're cold, or, so you become like this, you become their mother from 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And you worry about them later, and you take care of them, and you do things for them. And that's just because you're teaching the whole child. I'm not just teaching you reading, but I have to have your mind, body, and everything together for me to be able to teach you. So yeah, that's what we do.
Well, how would you pace something like this? You have a kid that did eat breakfast and has the proper apparel, clothing to be at a learning station, and then you have the one that didn't get to eat breakfast and is not feeling mentally there. At a pace like that, how do you combine you're teaching to those two brains?
How do you teach to both of them? Well, you make sure that the one child who's on track and has everything they need is pushed and challenged, and the other child, you let them know that you care about them. Simply, sometimes just by slipping them a granola bar, or saying, "I found this jacket. It doesn't belong to anybody. You can have it."
Yeah.
So without, calling them out or making them feel any way, and just letting them know, I care about you. There might not be, I can't
Yes.
control what happens to you at home, but here, know that I've got your back, and I'm going to keep you safe, and I'm going to take care of you. And you might be the only person that says that to them or shows them that for that school year. And
You can make his day too.
you can
Make
make a
whole
difference.
year,
Yeah,
yeah.
just, I care about you, and I'm going to take care of you because that's what I do as a teacher. So you always get the return. You always get it back. They'll work for you, they'll do things for you, and they'll remember you. So it's
Now,
like
did-
this little pebble you drop in the water, and you don't know what the effect is going to be, but
Yeah.
Now, did you growing up in New York and growing up in that teaching society over there, did you bring that straight to Florida, or
no, when I graduated from college, I joined the Peace Corps, and I went and taught because I grew up with teachers all my life, and all of our summer jobs were teaching, and everything we did was teaching. I felt like I've got this teaching thing down. Let me challenge myself, so I joined the Peace Corps, Didn't tell anybody, just did it.
At what age?
20, I was 20.
20.
I turned 21
Awesome.
when I got to my host country.
Okay.
Like the day I got off the plane, I turned 21. So it was young and
20. Yeah.
I had no
God,
like
Jesus.
preconceived notions. I didn't know what it was supposed to be like, and it was during the 80s. So Ronald Reagan was doing this big Caribbean Base Initiative thing because he was getting ready to. There was stuff going on with the islands. They invaded Grenada while I was there and things like that. So he wanted to have a lot of presence, American presence on the islands. So we were part of this little game, but it was great. I worked with children, building the youth programs. I started Special Olympics. We did identifying children.
Wait, you started Special Olympics?
I didn't start the entire thing, but on this island in this
Yeah,
country,
yeah.
we started the Special
You
Olympics.
helped. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Congratulations.
It's still going too. It's very good. It's very
Wow,
cool.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So we would go out and identify children who had special needs because they didn't go to school then.
Okay.
They didn't have a school for that.
Again, was it a private system there? Did they have a public
No, it
system?
was the government
Okay,
government schools. Yeah. So everything we did was through the government,
Okay.
and we didn't. We got paid like a stipend, but we got housing for free, and it was just, it was a great way to challenge myself and figure out how to teach in not great conditions. It's
Now,
not.
and all this is provided by the Peace Corps? That's a foundation of its
The
own?
Peace Corps is it's a government agency, so you are accepted through the program, and what they do is they match your skills with openings that they have. So at the time I was doing it, they were flooding the Caribbean islands with
Okay.
with volunteers.
Okay.
So I went with, in my group there was a beekeeper, so he did beekeeping on Montserrat, and I was a teacher. And there was a guy who was working with small business. Another guy was doing.
Because when I'm thinking Peace Corps, I know you're saying peace, but I'm thinking a rebellious mob of kids.
We had to be very much not rebellious, which was kind of hard for me. Like we had to be apolitical. We couldn't really have like a political agenda for being there because we didn't want to get misinterpreted. They already thought we were CIA on the island and stuff like that.
Can only imagine, yeah.
So we had to just be very apolitical and, immerse yourself in the community, be a part of it. But you're still, after 2 years, they liked you to leave because they didn't want you to get too immersed. I chose not to leave. I stayed, and that's when I met Duncan's father. But yeah. So I was down there. So it was very cool, though. So we started the Special Olympics, took the kids. The group that I worked with, we actually went to the international games that was held in the United States. So I got to take these 6 kids who had never been off their island to America, to Louisiana for these games. It was very cool.
No
Like we
way.
got to Puerto Rico and they didn't know what like a water fountain was or an escalator. They just rode the escalator for like our whole layover. They just kept going up and down the escalator. It was
And
amazing.
now, what kind of fields were you doing track? Were you doing track or were you training?
We had a soccer team. We had a swimming team.
Nice.
Well, the first team that we had, we just did track and field because that was just the easiest thing to do. You don't
Okay.
need equipment. But then it grew, and we had soccer, swimming, and something else. I think there was one more team. But now, as far as I know, there's even more going on with that. With the
So
program.
after being done with your contract with the Peace Corps, you stayed on your own budget. Now you stayed on your own.
They
They provide everything.
they still didn't. When I went back and they said, sure, you can work here, but we'll pay you the same as the Peace Corps paid you. I was like, well, that's not going to really work.
Oh,
But it was wonderful. I mean, when I was there, I didn't get a salary for the first like 3 months because they were working on processing the paperwork. But the students that I worked with, the parents knew, so they would give me like, they were like paying me. They'd bring me the peppers that they had and just the food. Like the one fisherman like would stop by and say, "Thank you,
No
miss.
way,
Here's some
that's
fish." Someone gave us a pig. They told us to go pick up a pig, and it was
Wow.
so Reagan wasn't in office now. It was Bush, and they said, "Go to that White House up there and you get the little bush pig." So we named her Barbara, and we brought her back. But we were supposed to she was supposed to be commerce. Like we were supposed to, I guess, fatten her up and then sell her for food. But of course, I could never
No
do
way.
that. So we
Wait,
had like a pet pig.
oh, my mom has one. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's over
well,
400 pounds.
Duncan would walk it on a leash, and people thought we were crazy.
How
but
what size did you get of this?
big, like they were
Well,
saying
over 400
she's.
pounds.
I don't know. She was
My mom has one in her living room right now.
Right now, yeah.
She
I hate it.
it was well, we had them out and it was great. I mean, she ate all our scraps. We threw it out there. We didn't have to worry about it. She chased away the monkeys from the garden. I mean, there was a lot of good reasons for having our
Okay,
little
okay. You
guard
see,
pig.
no, this we no, we got a 400 pound and they sold it as a potbelly pig, and it was not
Oh no,
potbelly.
that's not. No, this was
No.
definitely a bush pig. Like her bristles were like really rough and
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
she was rough.
and I talked to a few people, and they said that this the pig that my mom owns, and it's 6 years old, and they live to be like 14 years old.
Oh
But they
my.
say even if you were to take it out and make something out of it, it's all lard. They say
Yeah.
it doesn't have a since its own. It goes from the living room to outside, and I mean, I hope nobody's listening, but to me, it's kind of like animal cruelty because you're keeping this barn animal. I mean, it's living in the AC. It's got the
Right,
pillows
but
and it.
still,
Yeah,
from
man.
here to there,
Like
from
I'm
here to
sure
there,
in
yeah.
her head, she's probably like, okay, there's a basset hound, there's a beagle. Something's not right
Yeah,
here.
I'm a pig. I don't belong here.
And then there's this huge. I mean, it knows when it's feeding time because it starts going. What?
That's funny.
I mean,
No.
and it's somewhat aggressive. Was yours?
Yeah, oh yeah, 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 yeah. She knew what was going on when it was going
So
on.
that's
Yeah.
I guess that's a pig thing.
Yeah.
Because I heard in the pen, if when you have a pig pen, you gotta
Yeah,
move them
yeah,
hard.
yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta,
yeah. When we had to feed her, we had to like keep her off on that side and then put the scraps down, or she'd
Did she
get
ever
aggressive.
land on the dinner table?
No.
No.
No, no, and they told us it's too late now. Like there was a point where like no one's gonna eat that pig.
It's tough
You don't
meat.
even try and kill it. Like, what were you doing? We gave you this pig because we wanted to help you, and now it's a pet. You're like, you stupid lady. I don't understand.
It's like, sorry, we just don't.
And
think
my
like
husband
that.
just shook Duncan's father would just shake his head and say, I told her, I tried to tell her, but he was Rasta, so he didn't eat pig, so it was fine. Like he's like, that wasn't gonna be my dinner, so I don't care. But they're
Oh
like,
my
oh,
God.
we tried to help you, and here, you stupid idiot. But it was
Oh,
nice.
man.
But they really, that's how much the people appreciated me working there. Was like,
Yeah, it's amazing.
we know you're not getting paid yet.
Mm-hmm.
We know you're not like.
They trusted you.
Yeah, and they wanted me to stay because it was getting hard. But yeah, it was nice. It was
And
really
and I'm
sweet.
That's
sure
awesome.
they sensed the passion that you were doing your job, and because for them to do that, it kind of reminds me of my grandma. She was a principal. She was in the same thing in the. Tell me if I'm saying this right. In the scholastic system or
The scholastic system.
the school
School
system.
The school
system.
system,
School
yeah.
system.
Yeah, yeah. She was in the school system for like I'm saying like over 50 years. She was her last thing was she was a principal of this one school that was it was kind of like where the area where there's a lot of guerrilla warfare type thing. There's a lot of stuff going on, and for her to get there, she would have to take this taxi. They're called pirates. They're not even taxis. They're just regular
Right.
people who own cars who need to make their car payment, and kind of like an old school Uber. I'm talking about this is back in 99, 96. They would take this teachers to this areas because taxis wouldn't even go there.
Because it was so dangerous.
So they would take this car over there, and my grandma she did that for I think it was 10 years, and I loved it because she was a principal, so she would come home with bags of yo-yos,
All
bags
the
of
toys she took from the kids.
all the oh my God, I'm talking about it was raining toys every day, and we were poor, so I mean it was heaven, and we sometimes we would go there and watch her do her school thing and hang out with the kids over there as well, but in this school there was a general for Las FARC, which was one of the big guerrilla
guerrilla,
warfare,
Or,
and he landed in the helicopter in the schoolyard and walked over rifles and everything. Waiting in the office. My grandma's thinking, okay, this is it. This is where they're gonna.
Imagine.
And they said, ma'am, my son goes here. He talks so much about you. If there's anything that we can do, and we're talking about this is so the government are looking for these people,
Right?
and if there's anything that we can do, to protect you, protect your family, that you have our back.
Imagine.
And they left.
Imagine going to school every day as a teacher and thinking, well, I could get killed,
Oh, yeah.
kidnapped or killed going to school or coming home, but I'm gonna go and I'm gonna teach
Every
and I'm gonna do
single
this
day.
every
Yes,
day.
you still do it.
Like,
That's amazing.
yeah,
I remember she would wake up at 3 in the morning because her and I slept in the same room. My dad was it was actually her son, but he was never in the picture. And my grandma lost her firstborn, which she said it looked exactly like me. So her and I always had a strong bond. So yeah, we would sleep in the same room, and I'd watch her every morning when she leave at 4 in the morning. I'm like, why she leave so early? Like, God, man, this is like I never understood that. And then she never came home until like 8 that night.
that's a hero.
Yeah.
That's another hero.
Oh man, and
That's a
yes.
real hero. I mean,
She was one who she taught me how to read, and it taught me how to do all the, and it was great because her, my aunts and everything also helped me out with my schools, and it was like literally they would sit with the belt, read this paragraph. Goddamn, this paragraph.
that was the Board of Education. Yes, it was
And
strict. Yeah.
no, well, the last year that was in Colombia in 1999 was the last I got hit, and it was completely legal. Like it was normal.
Oh, that was one of the reasons I left teaching on the islands because Duncan was getting into second grade, almost third grade, and they would say, "Hold out your hand," and they'd beat them with the leather.
yeah.
And I would have parents come in and say, "Well, I'm having a hard time. They're not listening," and they would just start. They'd call the kid over and they just start take off her shoe and just start beating them with her shoe. And I felt like I can't. This isn't how I want to teach. I don't want to. This isn't. This is the best. This isn't the best place for my son to learn how to learn, and I can't teach like this. So there was that was that cultural thing. Can't change your mind. You're going to beat your child.
Yeah,
but
no.
Yeah.
They stopped doing that. But when I was in school down there,
oh, they still.
and it was
I'm sure
normal.
they still. Yeah.
It was normal.
Yeah,
It was like,
in Venezuela it wasn't like that, but when I got home, if I did something bad, my dad would be the
Exactly.
one that beat me.
or it was worse because they would beat you and then call your parents
And then
say,
you get beat
"Hey,
again."
just wait till you come home, buddy."
And
Believe
now you call home and say your child isn't behaving, and the parent comes back with a lawyer and says, "What did you do to make my child misbehave?"
What do you think? What do you think about that whole switch around and that mentality that's happening nowadays?
It's
about that
the
whole entitlement.
entitlement and not taking responsibility for your actions.
Do you
And
believe that that's actually happening?
that
as
is
far
absolutely
as the,
happening.
Okay.
And it's happening, and it's pervasive in like then they graduate from school and they're still not taking responsibility. And you're throughout everything they won't take responsibility. So you have this whole environment of this whole age of just not.
No, but do you
I don't
feel-
have to take
For you
care
to
of
realize
myself.
that, yeah.
Do you feel like it's the fact that they like the new generation, and it's a great thing that they're doing it. They're questioning everything. There's a level to everything.
You can question, and we can have a conversation about the questioning. Like we can investigate this and talk about it and break it apart. But when you don't even question and you just come back with this attack, this challenge, a question is one thing, but to challenge me and say my child did this, what did you do that made this happen? And now I'm going to bring a lawyer in and make it all different. So it goes like warp speed to without even going through
To
how did we
victimization.
get there, or sit down with your child and understand if there's bullying going on, investigate it. Yes, absolutely, but let's look at both sides of it and let's think about how these things are happening, because when it happens to the child all through their school year, it's not them, it's you have to take a look at yourself too, and the parents have to take a look. And it's easier for a parent to say, what did you do, than stop and maybe think about their parenting.
That's
that
what I was
child.
just about to say. They don't hold themselves accountable for maybe what's happening at home.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
I don't have he's out of control. Well, it must be your fault, not my fault.
Yeah.
And now their son their son is catching on to that
oh,
same
absolutely.
that same style. No,
So he gets fired from a
pretty
job because why? Well, the boss was a jerk. Well, no, he might have been, but
why? Yeah,
had
Why?
work through it. Yeah,
Exactly.
work through it. So yeah, we are creating this environment where it's litigious, so we're careful about what we do, and they have an advocate, so we have to do this and that. Well, if it's in the child's best interest, yes, but when it comes to like behavior and things, we kind of
Now this is something that I really wanna touch because I dealt with it myself, and I know that it's gotten worse to this point with with special education, we're getting a hold of a grasp of what's going on. Now there's a new thing. It's this bullying. Because I remember Dare was there for when I was growing up, but I feel like Dare's not even capable of doing what these kids are
Right.
like. What this bullying has evolved to. So both socially, social media, and physically, the way they're fighting now. Because I remember fight there used to be a push and a shove.
Well, now
Never.
everybody's MMA. Now
Oh
everybody's
my
mixed
God!
martial
Now
Or
I'm
artists.
they're bringing
scared.
weapons to school, or they're making
Whoa.
threats
Whoa.
that are threats. Yeah, you have. It's
Have you dealt because with your time and all this you've been dealing with all this special education is there a program right now that's set for bullying or
actually right now the school system has an initiative. I want to say the entire state of Florida has this initiative where we're doing. It's called social emotional learning and
social?
SEL, social emotional learning. So we are putting that into our curriculum. So you have to dedicate like 15, 20 minutes to discussing with your students like, and it moves up as the grade levels go higher. It gets more appropriate for those grade levels. So for like the kindergarten, first grade, to express your feelings and how to work through anger. But as it gets higher and higher into the other grades, it gets more into the bullying, advocating for yourself, doing things to address it without getting physical, and mental health counseling, because finally they recognize that there's a connection between mental health issues and behaviors and the high level of the attacks on school, the physicality that's happening. So yeah, it's not just like a shove on the bus. Now it's like he broke my nose
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I couldn't imagine with I put myself on those shoes of being 13 again and being 12 again and going through somebody firing a weapon through school. I mean, I'm 29 right now. I think of okay, yeah, I'll hide under this. No, I'd freak out. I'm 13 years old. I'd freak out. Somebody
Well,
shooting.
imagine like instead of having a fire drill, you have the active shooter drill. We do that in school now.
You gotta have that nowadays, huh? Because of
I
what's
remember
Yeah.
a hurricane drill, an active
We
shooter
have an
drill.
active shooter drill. So what do you do if there's an active shooter? And that's a drill that you have to do with the kids. And when they do it at the high school, I can't remember how they do it at the high school, but I think even the middle school, they have to think that we're not going to give them too much information because the person doing the drill might be the shooter. So we don't want them to know what we're doing. So to imagine to have to be like an administrator and have to think that deeply into I want to
Yeah.
protect my children. I want to do that. It's a horrible place to be, and
Well,
it's
psychologically though
Psycho-
too, because it
oh,
puts
yeah.
everybody on edge at all
oh
times,
yes,
and you're just like,
yeah, and
that's
and
just
you
weird.
from teacher to student.
and
This is
I
strange.
yes, it's a very strange. It's a hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing for me as a teacher to sit there and look at these beautiful faces and say, tomorrow we're going to do this drill because you need to know that I'm going to keep you safe. But I know in the back of my head, and children, if you're listening, turn it off now. I don't know that I'm going to keep you safe. I can't guarantee
Well, that's the truth.
that I will keep you safe. I can get you out of the building if there's a fire. I can, put you in the bathroom if there's a tornado. But if there's an active shooter, I don't know that I can keep you safe, which is
and
really scary thought.
being an active shooter is one thing, but now they're mixing it to where it could have a mixed role to where it's the person that's taking care of you being the shooter. So how do you train somebody to prepare for the war situation, knowing that there isn't that's pretty much giving you a recipe that hey there isn't a
There's
you're pretty much screwed.
and you can't this is like a rabbit hole that you don't want to go down because
Yeah.
you can't even think
As
like
a
that.
parent listening right now, I'm thinking, okay, I got to arm.
No,
Yeah, well, that's the next thing I was
That's-
gonna get into. But yeah, go ahead. Keep going
that's
with
that
what you were
rabbit
gonna
hole
say.
that I really don't want to go down. No, there's like if you go to the movies or you go to the grocery store, so, you just have to say, I'm here to protect you. This is my job. This is my role as your parent, and we're going to do these things to be safe. But you're not going to be constantly on the defensive, so you have to just take that deep breath and hope that the world's a happy place and people are generally good and bad things aren't going to happen to you. But you have no control over it. You really don't. So you can't you can't set your classroom up like, so that's going to be my safe
Yeah,
zone
yeah.
and things like
So
that.
this
You
guy's
can't.
like
Like
a,
a
turn this bookshelf down.
Yeah, as you were saying all that, I was thinking, okay, let's say I'm a principal, of the school, and that's something that I'd have to deal with in the back of my head. I would be armed.
And
But then it comes to the whole situation of like, is that even a thought to arm the teachers? Because
that is,
they keep bringing that up.
They bring it up, and the people who bring it up probably have spent
Zero time.
zero time
Exactly.
in a school. And I'm again back with these are the things I can control, these are the things I can't. If you are arming teachers, you should probably hang out with teachers more
Exactly.
first before you think that they're the ones that should have the guns.
Exactly. Well, I feel like the situation of having a gun will freeze 90% of the population.
And I do not want to be the person who is pointing a gun and there are
Kids
the
running
children
around.
I'm supposed to be
Oh,
keeping
my
safe
God.
all around.
Exactly.
And how do you do it? I walk my children. I do have to have the gun on. You should have the gun on you at all times if you want it to be useful. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be like in a lockbox somewhere because we don't have control over that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that issue. And I bend down and tie shoelaces like 100 times a day. I'm gonna shoot my foot off one of those times bending. Like
There's way
there's
too
the
many
the
factors.
logistics of it.
Yeah.
And you can say I think it's a knee-jerk reaction to say arm the teachers
Yeah.
because that's how they're going to be safe. Upper grades, their kids could get access. Now you have a gun that someone could potentially have access to as well. So that you don't have to come in with a gun, but I know
It's
my
already in
teacher
there.
has a gun.
Exactly,
The
it's
gun's
already in there.
there, and it gets into it's a very slippery slope, and you need to spend more time in the schools, and you need to have conversations with the teachers to find out, like, are we all ready to be trained? We do have security guards on campus now.
Okay.
Most of the schools will have a guard, and he.
Now, is that the sheriff, the deputy sheriff, or is
It's
that a,
they're called guardians. They're not. They're.
Oh, so there's multiple.
so it's a
Because
private
when I was going to
security-
high school, there was just that
we
one
had
sheriff.
the
and that's
one
it.
sheriff, but
Yeah.
now like every school has a guardian.
Good.
Is that a
And
private security company?
They're through the school system, and I think they're dovetailing with the sheriff's department.
Okay,
So
okay.
they've gone through training, they've gone through school training, and they do a lot for the anti-bullying because they're there, they're giving the kids encouragement, and they're just a face that we know we're safe because officers here, and they're very friendly. They're not like military standing there with their guns.
Okay, yeah.
But they're
Intimidating.
They're
SWAT team
there,
looking.
Yeah. Again, do they carry guns on them all the time? I don't know that for sure, but I do think that there is a weapon. Like that's one of the things.
I
that
knew
they
the
have.
sheriff was always dressed in green, and
yeah.
he
Yeah.
always had that gun
Right,
next
you
to him
knew,
when we were in high school.
and
So
yeah. But these guys are they're called guardians, and
So to turn all this negative
Yes, let's
gunpowder,
quickly let's
to
go.
turn all this negative gunpowder out of the way, I think the best way to deal with bullying and the way that I was taught to deal with it, because I was bullied, and I'm sure I bullied. Even if I feel like I wasn't a bully, I'm sure the person that I was applying that to was probably like, "Fuck this kid." So I feel like a solution for that, let's maybe get involved with some track, some sports. Get the fifth graders helping the first graders. Like get them involved. Hey,
Right.
let me teach you how to keep control of a ball instead of just kicking it around. Because that's something that you learn in the fifth grade and not in the first grade.
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
bring sports instead of bringing all this program. I'm gonna bring in armed security or not armed security. Let's bring in a solution instead of a band-aid.
Or just have have them see themselves as part of the school community by doing things like that.
Because
and
they're
even,
causing the bullying. And they're causing the bullying because either they're getting bullied at home or their parents are bullied themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how they grow up and they see, oh, yeah, so my dad's got the Navigator and his dad has a station wagon. So, yeah, we bully him.
Oh yeah, and it's not like a simple this is your bullying and this is how we're going to solve it. But it is a whole mindset of just treat each other nicer, just be nicer. And I feel like if you make school a more inclusive community and just, we're all together, like, yeah, having the older ones helping the younger
Because
ones,
that's who I looked up
having
to.
having an art club,
I looked up to the older kids.
having a
Always.
mentorship program,
Yes.
doing those kind of things, and just making school a place where the kids, if your home environment is again, I can't control that, but you don't have to be a bully here, because here we don't stand for that. We don't do that. I have to stop them all the time and, like, you're a family.
Yeah.
Well, you have to get along, and you can only say kind words. And then
Exactly.
stop it. Turn it around. You say what you needed to say, but say it in a kind way. You don't have to be a jerk.
And then to add more positive activities. Like, again, I always like to fall back on Liam's blue carbon activity, because Liam's blue carbon contribute to this world. It's something that we need to jump on, because we're slowly losing what we love the most and what we cherish the most, which is our earth and our land. So to get involved with a little bit of environmental activism, and then going on with the school, like telling the kids, hey, let's work on some environmental
Right.
programs, instead of let's do some, instead of staying away from all the negative part.
Right.
Let's get them more involved with the environment, which helps both, because they're our future. Their environment is our future. The kids are our future.
And these are the children who are going to grow up, and they're going to need, like, right now we talk about it, but they're going to be in the doing part of it, because by the time they're 20,
Yes.
they have to have the solutions. Right now we're just making it a political bullet, but they're the ones that are going to have to come up with solutions. So we do gardening. Like, there's so many therapeutic things you can do in school too to change it. So we have, like, gardening programs. We have animals that come and read with the kids. We do fundraisers for Sophie's Choice and things like that. So let the kids get outside of themselves and then start doing these other things. And maybe whatever was the problem that they had at home is not, their mind is off of it for that.
Now, are those programs being used? Are those programs being filled?
Me, myself, and I,
Yes.
I have a kindergarten garden that I do with another teacher, and we have a garden club that comes and works with us once a week. And I think Lean's going to come and be a guest speaker, because we're going to use his composting as one of
Yes.
the things at our garden. So our garden.
Let's have the video there too.
Our garden is, we do it seasonally. So for a kindergarten garden, 5 and 6 year olds, last year we grew enough produce to, like, sell it, but teachers just took it. Sorry, they did. We grew green beans, peas, spinach, kale, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, herbs, tomatoes, carrots, onions, potatoes, butterfly plants, peas, peppers, eggplant. The eggplant's still growing, zucchini. So the
And all
kids,
that's in
spinach
Florida. Wow.
and spinach.
All that in
So
Florida.
the
They
kids
say
are
nothing
eating.
grows
So these
here.
5-year-olds are eating spinach.
No, those are all the things that grow, like, effortlessly almost
Yes,
here.
and we do
Yeah.
it like we do our garden seasonally. So we're not going to grow spinach in the summer, because we know that doesn't work. So the kids
Yeah.
get to understand strawberries are now,
Yeah,
but
yeah. You have to learn the cycles and
but
everything.
zucchini is later. Yeah, like
It's so
Agriculture.
fun. So
and
fun.
and so for Cinco de Mayo we made our own salsa from all the ingredients from our garden.
That's awesome.
We had tomatoes,
Whoa.
peppers, onions, cilantro, and then they chopped it up and they ate it. And they ate spinach, and we taught them how to fertilize naturally using eggshells and not put chemicals in it. Because now you can eat it, like, you can just take it and eat it, because it's like that. So I think next year we're going to try and include, like, banana trees, because that's the things that grow here. Bananas,
I wish they would
papaya.
bring that back in the high school, because I remember at the old high school, 9th, 10th, and
agriculture
11th,
program.
the
It was
agriculture
it was
program,
agriculture, but that
home
was-
ec, photography. We had
Yeah,
we
but
had
I-
the dark room with Miss Curry.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Like,
feel
just,
like you got judged for those programs. Like, oh, you're doing the agriculture. You
Yeah,
you
well,
must be.
guess what?
But it's not it's irrelevant. It's like those
Uh-huh.
things are so necessary. And I remember being in high school, like loving it.
loving going
you know?
to that. Yeah.
Because
I
I knew
never
that I was
had
going to
it.
do something different than just math, English, which I wasn't good at either.
And
so.
those are your that might be the best, the what you look forward to the most in
And I
school.
did. Miss Curry, Mr. Kehoe to me were like, amazing people, because they, I would do videos from a young age, of all these surfing clips that I would gather from all my friends, and he would put it on the news
And
in the
now
morning.
look where you are
And look,
now.
and look what, yeah.
See?
So it's just those are the things you look forward to
Yeah.
when I was going to
Well,
high school.
we taught the kids about, bees and so we have pollinator plants in the garden, and so the bees are going to come and they'd all freak out. The bee wants nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
If you're not a flower, you're fine. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. So they've learned to not stomp on the caterpillars and do all these things. They have such respect for all the creatures that that is something that I know that they're going to
Yeah.
keep going. And some of them, parents will call and say, "Okay, my kid wants a garden. Tell me where I start now." So you
Well,
have to expose
yeah.
them to it, and you have to make it be a part of. And we tied everything into education. They measured out the plots. We had the rain gauge, and we even have water catchers for the rain barrels.
Okay,
So we
okay,
catch
yeah.
rain waters to do the whole thing. So you have to have it there. You can't just let education be. You
Yeah.
can't just let school be this, and this.
Yeah, academic only. Yeah.
Because those kids need to understand, this is what we need to grow. Here's the water cycle. You need to start collecting water because we're not going to waste it. And the composting, breaking up the eggshells and putting them down. So then they'd come in with all their eggshells and stuff. So everything just kind of builds. And
Do you ever get a feedback from the parents at home saying, "Hey, my kid's now helping me
my
out"?
kid's eating spinach. My kid
Whoa, right
wants
on.
to grow. Yeah.
It's a big cycle and a big chain that helps
my
each other.
substitute teacher one day left me a big note and said, "I'm so sorry, I had no idea, but your students, they were so kind, but then they turned on me because she killed a spider in the classroom."
Oh my God.
And they were like, "No, spiders eat mosquitoes. Spiders are important." And we don't kill them. We bring them outside. She's like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I killed the
She was
spider."
misinformed.
And now she's informed.
Wow.
So
By the kids.
By the kids.
Which is the most
Which is-
important
But
part.
the note was like, "I'm so sorry." I tell them I'm sorry. I couldn't stop apologizing.
That's a proud feeling. That's gotta be.
No, I laughed. Yeah. But they told me about it the next day, for sure. That you know what she did? She killed a spider. We told her no.
That's awesome.
Now, are our kids too innocent and too humble right now to understand? Because I don't understand this. But what is fracking?
So do you think our kids are too
Are too
innocent?
young? Yeah, are too young to understand this.
Well, you didn't know what fracking was
No,
because we
yeah.
didn't do it's a new concept for you
Completely
just
new.
now.
What, for the last 6
Yeah,
years or
yeah,
something?
you
maybe?
didn't learn about fracking because they didn't. And that's another really awesome thing.
Yeah,
The things that we're teaching them now are going to be irrelevant in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about fracking now.
Okay.
So which is where they go under, they put pressure to bring up the oil. Now, so there's different ways to do it, and it gets very technical. And I'm a kindergarten gifted teacher, so I don't want to
Okay,
be
okay.
fact checked by anybody. But it's pollution, and it's killing our earth. And you can teach children at any age to respect nature and respect the earth. So you can talk about it at any age and help them understand that these things are bad. This is why you wouldn't do it. End of story. Don't do it.
But now is that something that is being done by our government right now?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. A lot, and they're wanting to do it here in Florida.
Well,
See, I don't know.
here's and without getting political. So we have a governor.
Almost impossible.
So I don't like to get political.
Let's
I
hit it.
like to
Let's
I like
hit
to
it.
I like to deal with the issues. So whatever side you're on, here's the issue, and then you decide.
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter what
Yeah,
color
yeah.
you wear. But he said he was going to stop fracking, which made everybody excited. Yay! Finally, somebody who respects the environment. But then he redefined fracking in his own special way. So there's different ways to do fracking, and so he said, so we're not going to do these 4 ways, but we are going to do this way. So we're still frickin' fracking out there, but everybody just heard the first, I'm not going to do fracking. So he redefined it. I went to Tallahassee for with the teachers union for this lobbying week, a wonderful family labor lobbying thing. and got to read the actual bills that they have, and it was during the first legislative session, and that was one of them. So you don't read everything; you just hear it, and then you have to look and read between the lines, and that's when you start getting informed and you start getting activated. You start getting involved.
Is
So
that documentation open to the public?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You can go on. There's like my Florida legislature, and
Okay.
and you can even go if there's something you're passionate about. You can even go and put your name on a list, and when they're introducing the bill, you can stand up and speak for it or against it. And these are my reasons why. Or you can do what
That's
I did
amazing.
and go to our local representatives while they're in session and go sit down with them and say, I know that tomorrow you're going to vote on this bill. And I know this is what you're thinking, but as a teacher, we did education bills. As a teacher, this is my perspective, and maybe you weren't aware of that, and this is why you should do this. Like, our governor got rid of a bonus program called the Best and Brightest, where if you got a high SAT score and you got a good evaluation, you got up to like $8,000 bonus, which is great. Teachers deserve respect,
Absolutely.
except my SAT score that I took a long time ago, like 30 years ago, doesn't tell you whether I'm a good teacher or not. And my evaluation, which was done by this principal or that principal, that's not fair either. So some people are getting a bonus and other people are not getting the bonus. And it's really not even an indication if I'm a good teacher or I'm not a good teacher. So he said, I'm getting rid of that. So again, everyone went, yay, he's getting rid
Yay.
of it. But he put in something else that is harder, more subjective, and less people will be getting the money. And it rewards the new teacher. So anyway, so I went to the legislators and said, stop giving bonuses, just give teachers a respectable rate of pay. Like, I don't want your bonus. I want to be paid more every day. So take that pocket of money and do that. So you can go for anything. You can find look up the bills, be involved, go sit in on the sessions and do it, or you can even go meet with them, or you can do it when they're back here. Like now, they're back here.
Well, with a lot of the homework
that's
that I've been
important.
doing, and I told you I was doing my homework for you. I was looking up on YouTube. I was looking up on Google. I was looking up for issues and positive things about teachers and what's going on in Florida. There's a test, and I don't know if it's an assessment test or something that teachers have to take to qualify.
The teachers exam for
That's all I could find. I literally, I don't know if that was a block to what's going on in the actual, but what is going on with that? That's all.
teaching is hard. And
Absolutely.
it's hard to keep teachers. So we have a teacher shortage. Volusia County had 1,000 teachers that were 1,000 positions that were filled with not certified teachers. So think about that. Your kid's going to go to college and he has to pass his class, and it's possible his teacher
Doesn't
was
even
a
know about it.
substitute teacher. Yes,
my
who today is doing this and tomorrow is doing Spanish and is doing, second
But that's
grade.
not what
and
she
that's-
wants to do. Correct. She
no.
wants to be full time.
Well, so the problem is they can't get people to come to Florida to teach because we don't have a respectable rate of pay. So people are not going to move here, even though they say it's a lower cost of living. We still want a respectable rate of pay. So it's hard to keep teachers here. So they have all these openings, and it was hard for some people to pass the entrance exam.
Entrance exam.
It's not the entrance. I can't remember the name of it now, but there's an exam that the teachers, a general knowledge test is what it was. So DeSantis again said, well, let's just change the test. So they're changing the test and they're making the test easier. So now you will have teachers coming in who might not be, it's not people who went through 4 years of college and got an education degree. It's people who are like, I need a job, I'll be a teacher. Because it's easy because you get the summers off and you get out of school at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Which, no.
No.
But anyway.
Yeah, I remember teachers telling me Miss Gavilanes in the middle school, my Spanish teacher. She's the one that took me in when I didn't know any English when I got to New Smyrna, and she would just like I remember some afternoons being there at 6 in the afternoon in the classroom
Yeah.
with her.
And that's on her
You know,
time.
Yeah, oh,
And
absolutely.
it's amazing how she would just be doing things. She would be helping me with my homework.
Well, drive
And-
by the schools next week because it's the week before school starts for teachers. So teachers don't get paid. We have a week of pre-planning, but drive by. I go by any school and the parking lot's full
There's always cars. Yeah.
because we're going in on our own time to get things
Arranged
ready
in the classrooms
to
and
make sure our
everything.
classroom is ready for those kids that come in because the school district doesn't give us enough time.
Man, that is just. I just don't understand why it's so blatant. You know what I mean?
Right?
Like,
I'm so glad-
so in our faces in the way that you're just like almost disrespectful to a point. You're just like, wow, you just literally
is it-
slapped me in the face in front of everybody. I'm like,
Yeah.
Is that because
Wow. Okay.
there's no funds?
No, the funds are there. It's what they are spending them on.
It's just in their pockets,
It's what
in the
it's
wrong
Ah.
pockets.
It's what there's and it goes from our local level, our county level. It goes all the way. It trickles down because the government is slowly cutting. The federal government is dismantling public education every day. We're all worried about Russia and the Mueller report and stuff. And while we're focusing on that, they're passing bills left and right that are taking away, taking money, cutting funds, moving it, doing different things so that public education is really being affected in a negative way. But we're not paying attention to that because we're worried about, if China's hacking our cell phones. So.
Because this is one of the main things that that I learned about this podcast as well, is that so far everybody who's been on it, their next level to pursue their goal and to pursue the next evolution of their life is education. So education is very important. So the fact that we're kind of gambling with our educators'
Right?
pockets, and not just pockets, but it's because there is no pockets
Livelihood,
in the
integrity.
first
Well,
place.
it's and
Their integrity,
we're
man.
teaching the doctor when your doctors, your lawyers, your lawmakers, all of whatever the future is going to be, they're going to be educated. We're educating now the people who are going to be holding the keys to our future when we're not educating anymore. When we are the problems of the future, these are the people who have to solve it, and we are not. It sounds very negative. We are trying to prepare them. We're trying to prepare them for things that are very important. It's going to be critical and crucial. This community wants to have good doctors, good
absolutely.
people working
It's
with
in
the
our best
environment,
interest.
our public works people. Yeah,
I
we
mean, and
want
it's in
them.
our local community as well, because if we can't provide that from Florida, having doctors that come from here and everything, we're just gonna have to hire people from other countries or other states. Now, with you're having the family tree as large as you have on the education system, is that something that's relative only in Florida? Is that all through the whole nation?
It's throughout the whole nation, but it doesn't. I don't want to paint it as like this bleak, dark, horrible
It seems
thing.
Yeah.
We have control by getting involved, by going to school board meetings, and parents should advocate for their kids. Go to those meetings, be the squeaky wheel. This is unacceptable. There was a while back. I think Edgewater was one of the schools. There was a while back where they were cutting funds, so they were going to take art, music, and PE out of the schools.
That's what I was saying. Okay, as a musician and as a person that was not a musician in high school, I saw that kind of disappear and in a way kind of come back in a little bit, because I was in a band with 3 high school kids who were just incredible musicians, way better than I'll ever be. But these kids were in the jazz program in high school, and I was just like, okay, so it's back. The whole music thing is back, because when I graduated in 07 from the new high school, my class was the first class to graduate from the new one.
Right.
There was nothing. Like, it was such a
So
it was very
could you imagine
depressing.
like taking those pieces out? But it was a public outcry of you need to have
You
this.
can't do that,
You need to do
yes.
this, and there was like 2 years where they messed around with it, but then through the public outcry, it came back. So
Good.
the
Okay.
complacency just maybe that's what you just can't be complacent anymore. You can't assume that when your child goes to school, they're getting everything they need and everything's fine. You have to investigate and demand. We're not just babysitting; we're preparing. So demand more for them.
Yeah. Well, we need to keep pushing to try to bring agriculture as well back, and
Yes.
home ec and photography and
All of
dark rooms and all that. Even though we're all going digital, it's good to know
No,
how
right.
to
The
how to
roots.
get a film.
Yeah.
What do you call
because
that?
we're going to start going back to the simplicity
Yeah,
of it,
exactly.
and it might be more efficient in some areas, so you can't not pay attention to it.
Exactly.
Now with the way the education is is going here, and the way that we have our what do you see as the like I feel like you're somebody that's very. I'm gonna ask a very proper question because of the degree that you have and the education that you have. Is how is Florida controlling the education system? Is that a thing, or is the nation controlling our system?
Our public school
Yeah.
system, it's all comes down to legislation. The funding, all the money that
So
comes
that's what
down
it
to
all.
us,
Okay.
it all comes
Okay.
down
Okay.
to funding. It all comes down to dollars and cents. You said you had somebody in your family who had autism.
Yeah.
There are some places that if you have autism, will give you a one-on-one assistant to work with you so you can be in the most challenging environment that you can and you have that support. And then there's other places that, oh, we don't do that, so they get lumped in a room with other students who maybe don't have the same issues as they do, but this is where we put you because this is how it is. So it comes down to money. It comes down to money for how many students in a class. You could have fifth grade, you could have 25, 26 fifth graders in a class. We know that that's not the best learning environment, but it comes down to money. We're not going to do that. And they got it. We voted as people for small class initiatives so that classrooms would have a workable number. And then they came back and revamped it. Same thing with like the fracking thing. All right, so we'll have a small class, but here's read between the lines. Now, if your classroom is over the limit, the school district would rather pay the fine because it's cheaper to pay
Cheaper.
the fine
Oh my
than to
gosh.
pay for another teacher.
Oh my gosh, it's the same thing.
So-
Okay, yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So and then they
that's
got away with
amazing.
They got away with that, and then they kind of didn't. So now what they have is a certified teacher that will come in 3 days a week to assist that teacher. So I still have 30 kids in my class. I'm still teaching 30 kids, but Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Mrs. So and so will come in and help out. But she's only there 3 days a week, so she doesn't really. It's not as effective. And those other 2 days, your child is sitting in a class with 32 kids. So here's all the things I can't do because I have those many kids. Here's all the things that like just the space. It's like we've done studies on rats that are close like that. Now you have, you know that you can't do that. So there's legislation, and then that affects us, and then we have to again that don't be complacent. Like
The reason I
me.
asked that was because there was I work with a gentleman at work, and I was like I said, with doing my homework, I asked him, I was like, what are some of the things that you feel objective about the school system here? And he was actually very proud of the school that his daughter attends to, and I guess it's an academy school in Oak Hill. Or,
Burns.
And he loves it. He says it's the best, and he says that there's families that live in Port Orange that'll drive down there. And I know Boston Whaler donates money to them as well.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. They're not a public school; they're a charter school.
They're charter.
What
yes.
is that? What?
So a charter school is a school that opens up, and we give parents choice. We grade our schools. So if a school is a certain grade, you can choose. You don't have to go to that school anymore. So if your school is a failing school, you can choose to leave. And a charter school doesn't follow all the same. They get public funds, but they don't have to follow the same rules as a public school. The teachers don't have to be certified. They don't have to administer the standardized testing, which is a big draw for some families who they don't want their children to be taking the
FCAT?
FSA. The FCAT was FCAT, now it's FSA.
Oh, wow.
So they
Oh, they changed it to FSA.
Yeah.
No
so
way.
same thing, different name.
Nostalgic.
And they don't have to take every student. They don't have to take if you go and they can say no,
We don't want you.
we don't want you. We don't have to take you. No, I'm sorry. And
I
yeah.
didn't know that part.
Yeah. So
Oh,
That's kinda-
because it's
no,
a private, it's
Oh,
a charter school.
I
It's
heard,
not.
I heard
it's
that
not
there's a waiting list.
It's
to
a not.
be
Well,
on
I'm
it.
sure and that school is a wonderful school. That school has a great reputation. They're very hands on. They're science directed. It's like a hands on science kind of a magnet school, and they have the freedom to teach on the curriculum that they want the way they want. So we at the public school have to teach. This is our curriculum.
What
This
they
is
tell
this
you.
is what you're accountable for. But there, it could be, they could do fairies and butterflies if they want to. They can teach anything. A lot of the charter schools are affiliated with a religion. That school is not, but a lot of them are. So when your child comes in,
Christian
that's
religion.
where
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be.
okay.
This is what it's going to do. So they're taking public school money. So
Oh, whoa.
when you go, so there's a formula. Let's say
How
$1,000.
does that work?
Well, so when you go, there's
Oh, and
$1,000.
Whaler donates money as well.
So here's $1,000 per kid. That's a number, an arbitrary number, and you leave the public school. So you take your $1,000 with you, and then that school gets the $1,000.
Okay, so that's how.
So the charter school, but your $1,000 pays for teacher salary, the bus, the this, the that. So your $1,000 it pays for a lot of things. So that school district lost $1,000. Now,
Times however many parents, yeah.
right. So we're losing. The public school loses money,
Wow.
and the charter schools, some of them, they cost more than what that voucher was that they got. So you are paying your $1,000 is off, but now you have to pay another $2,000. So it's not like a free and balanced thing because not every parent can afford that. And
And now do they have a school buses as well, or
I don't think that they use
so
school
they don't even have to-
transportation.
so it's a low overhead, pretty much.
Yeah.
They're getting all this.
Yeah.
Holy
And there's no
cow.
accountability.
No, okay. They should.
What does
That's
that
just
mean? What
strange.
is
It means they don't have to answer. They're
Yeah.
trying to bring accountability into it, but it means that they don't really have to answer
To nobody.
as to what they're doing. They get graded, and some of the charter schools do really well. And if they don't perform well, then they'll eventually get closed down. But they're pretty much for-profit schools,
Whoa. But now they're being taken care of by
subsidized by
Yeah.
public schools. Yes.
It's funny you said that thing about religion because when I was in Venezuela in private school, we moved to 4 different schools because I wasn't the best. I actually got kicked out of my first school for fighting and stuff like that back in the day. But like all the other ones that I went, except the last one, were all some type of religious schools as well. So that's funny that you bring that up because that's something that I do not see around here is private schools that push religion so
Well,
had a
they'll
hard.
have
chapel.
a different name.
We had a chapel in our school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they'll-
straight up. Yeah. And there would be like church bands and
Oh, yeah.
stuff playing, you know.
So yeah, they'll have a name like it'll be a generic name, but
It'll
it's
push.
affiliated with a church.
That's just weird. I never agreed with that.
No,
But it's not all bad. It sounds like I'm like
No. Well, I mean,
No,
it's
it's
in the big,
different. It's-
It
in
gives-
the big
it
scheme of things.
gives-
If you're into that,
and-
I mean, go
and
ahead.
That's one of the things that when those bills come through, teachers go to when we speak to the representatives, like understand that if you're giving them money from the state, they should be following the same guidelines as we are.
Yes.
Teachers should be certified. They should be doing the standardized testing.
do
There
they
should
have?
be-
They don't have to take that test.
No.
Oh,
they don't have
wow.
to do any of that. No.
They can. It's their choice. They can do whatever they want.
Wow, because that, like I said,
But
look
we
at-
could be putting money into. We could create a school. Wouldn't it be great if we could create a public school like in the model of the Burns Oak Hill School, where it's like a science-centered STEAM kind of thing? But we don't have.
can't.
we
You're
don't have the
not
money.
allowed.
And well,
Yeah.
we could try and create it, but we just the funds are not there for it. It's always the money. So this is good for them. They're doing a great job. It's a good service, but at the end of the day, they're taking money from the public schools and they're hurting them.
Yeah. Okay. So one
Yeah,
more
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So
go
I
ahead.
researched a thing that now, especially in Florida, teachers don't have to when they become a teacher, they don't have to teach you the actual subject or something like that. It's more. I heard something along the lines. It's more like from the start. It's just them getting you ready for this. For the FSA now, it's called
testing.
You know, so it's not really like you're going in and learning about different things. You're only learning about what's gonna be on this test. Hence, it completely. Is that a true thing that's happening?
We are accountable,
Mm-hmm.
and our school and money comes in based on school grades, and your school grades are
Comes
based
from the
on the
FSA.
test.
Oh my
So,
gosh, you guys are
and
trapped.
our evaluation, our teacher evaluation, which has a salary component attached to it is based on the school's performance on the test. So when you put all of this on the test, when my salary is based on how my students did on a test, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
You're gonna
help you
push
do.
that,
I'm
yeah.
gonna help you. So do I have time to take you to the butterfly garden? No, because we got to get this done. Do I have time to do this? And the test is one grade level. So when you have kids coming in who are fresh in from Columbia, and then in 3 months I have to get you ready for this test.
What kind
So
of pressure does that create?
Tons.
an unhealthy,
Yeah.
it's an
Stress,
unhealthy.
not
it is,
pressure.
and you can talk to any teacher, and that's not why they got. I did not get into teaching to teach you a test. I did not get into this business. This is the passion. You're squeezing the passion out of.
You know, it kind of reminds
teaching.
me when I was working in sales, and if my manager, us as a team, if we didn't all pull up, he'd take the hit.
Yeah. Well, they tried to equate it to this business model, and you have these like motivational speakers that talk about it. But we're not building cars. We have children
We're teaching
who
kids,
come in,
yes.
and you can't have an asterisk next to the day of the test. Oh, well, we used to do the testing. I taught at a school that was beachside, and we would do the testing during bike week. So the kids would come in exhausted because either their neighborhood was a zoo because they live right by Main Street and it was bike week, or one kid was working at his parents had a vendor. They were vendors, and so he was selling leather belts until 2 o'clock in the morning.
God,
You're like,
God
oh, you
bless.
can't put an asterisk next to that and say, well, I know he didn't do his best, but this is why. Or he didn't get his meds that day because it was at the end of the month and the mother, ran out of his prescription, didn't have money. So all of those human factors, you can't, they just look at the number. And then they reward the schools that do good and punish the schools that did bad.
That's the most oxymoron
It
thing
is.
that you can do,
It
because
is.
you can, like you said, as a teacher, you push the student that's doing well. You keep
Keep up.
with them, but then the one that's not doing well, it's not, you're gonna be like, oh, you're dumb, get out of here. No, you're gonna push him even harder.
You're not doing well, so now I'm going to punish you.
Like,
Well, and how
and-
about and
it
how
makes
about
no
this?
sense. That rehabs nobody. That
And
rehabilitates
if my
no one.
grade, if my salary is connected to how I teach you, do I want to teach? Do I want to go in that school and teach you, or do I want to go here where I know the parents make the kids do homework and they're
So
it's
that's the
different.
charter school thing. So where do you find that balance? Because I know you're a public school teacher, and there's the charter schools, which is the most backwards thing how that system
It
works.
is.
But at the same
Absolutely.
time, when the public school system is lacking so much in its own, and then what me, if I had a kid, if I knew that, I'd be scared of my kid going to public school, and that's why people are going to charter school. So how can we find that balance?
But when you go to a
know?
charter school, you might not get a certified teacher. When
That's
you go to
even
a
worse,
charter school,
exactly.
you might get my pastor's sister-in-law needs a job and she really likes kids, so she's
just
going to be
makes
the
no
third grade
sense.
She's
teacher.
good with kids, yeah.
So
Wow.
So
There's the perspective I want to bring
and the
up.
public school public school has been going on forever. It will survive this attack on it because teachers are teachers and teachers are good teachers. And the ones who are in there in the trenches are doing the best they can, and we're trying as hard as we can.
I mean, I miss high school, public school.
Aw.
That created so much
yeah.
character, for me. So
Right.
it's just like to see it, lack so much. It's almost like, what is
High
going on?
school's changing, going more specified, so they're having more academies. I don't know if they had academies when you were there, but
Learning communities, what they call them.
Yeah, so they're doing more specified, like a pre-law program, criminal justice, agriculture,
Oh, wow.
environmental, different things. They're
good to
they're
hear.
building those into them so that you can start moving forward and focusing. So that's like a positive.
That's good.
They're trying to address those areas. But if you're a child who's at the young age of 15 doesn't know what they want to do, those academies might not be the best thing
Well,
for you.
Okay.
and again, going back to that balance of having, that deadline for having this kid ready for this
Yeah.
test, and also with this increased amount of immigrant kids showing,
Mhm.
being introduced to our community.
Right.
Like again, I go back to the pressure, the stress on the teachers.
Just so much to think
it's
about,
no
so much to
longer a
balance.
passion. It's now a number.
You got to keep the passion.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what keeps the fire
You
kind of going in a way.
yeah,
It
That's
should.
hot, man.
you have to keep that.
Not easy.
And when those kids come in, you're aware of everything that they have to do, and you do the best that you can for them, and also let them know, even with the ESE students, you let them know that this thing,
Community.
this monster of the
Sorry.
FSA or whatever this is, this is not who you are. Don't worry. You're here to learn. We're going to help you learn, get better, be kind, learn all those things, and you'll get through it. And then just not
But
not let it be the
I
be
remember
all.
the end of the year. That was the 60% of the grade. It's like no matter how well or how
Right? Or
That
how
was
hard I
60,
tried.
yeah.
Yeah, I take this test and this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's common sense will prevail.
Thank you.
Hopefully.
And well, I feel like, the powers that be are stopping the common sense, but I feel like the people can't be that stupid. And eventually, hopefully, we understand that we have the power to change things in our own community, even.
You should go to a
Locally-
school board meeting and just stand up and say those exact same words and listen and let them.
I can't believe people are not saying those words, or people
believe-
saying
Right.
those words.
If you're not angry, you're not listening. Is my kind of thing with
Well,
it when I
yes, I
even
agree.
with but even with the even with
Yeah.
the staff even with-
Frustration, not anger. I like to
the
say
teacher-
frustration because
Well,
it's passion,
Yeah,
behind
well,
it.
that's like the anger is the other side. Even with the teachers, like if you are sitting here and letting this happen and not letting your voice be heard, you are not paying attention because this is not in the best interest of, at the end of the day, best interest of the kids, that's it. And if it's not, then
Well, in the big picture, it's not in the best interest of anyone.
anybody.
Because we're breeding.
our education is the cornerstone of what our community is going to look like, what
Yeah.
our society. So, yeah.
Now,
Well,
now, do
Jesus.
you feel like again going back to this test that this teachers had to take, and I know we're going back a little bit, but this is something that I looked up. They're saying that it's kind of dealing to where the teacher has keeps failing in this. They have to keep repaying for this test.
Yes.
So that financially, it's adding on to that stress again right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't get
Well,
paid enough. Plus, you got to pay for all this
right?
stuff.
And then if you and it might be the thing that stops somebody from becoming a teacher just because
From losing the
they
passion.
can't or just choosing another path of I can or going like I'll go to a charter school or I'll go
Yeah.
work here or nothing. There has to be, but we do need a way to make sure the people who are teaching our kids are prepared and capable. So I don't know what
and want to.
and want to,
And
yeah.
want to. And
Yeah.
want to. At the end of the day, I feel like that's the number one thing.
Yeah,
and want to.
I don't know anybody who is, like I said, is doing it just for the money, but yeah, because it's a lot. But
Miss Weaver, you touch a lot of young minds, and not just that, but I'm sure, like myself, I have teachers that I'm 29 years old that I'm still thinking about. Even in third grade in Colombia,
Yeah.
that's still impacted my life. You impacted so many communities, and not just that, but so many of the school systems here. And I heard this through and I hope you don't mind me bringing this up, but Duncan told me that you created an ambience, a comfort in a classroom for kids with special needs. You found an
yeah, I called it. I don't know if I should say it out loud because I might market it, but I will.
okay.
It's okay. I called it the Pathways to Peacefulness, and so the children with autism have sensory deficits, which means
Write a book.
sometimes
please.
the lights, like this fan going around.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys noticed it, but I definitely did. Like, so
Oh.
these things, this could stop a student from being able to read because it's just a distraction and it's a sensory thing, or the temperature, sounds, light,
Okay.
temperature, movement. They need movement, texture, different things. So their bodies, all of us, we do it. Our bodies respond to these sensory things. So to get them regulated and ready to learn, they need to get their sensory balances in check. And so I created different areas in the room where they could go when their body needed that. Like sometimes, just think about when you get upset. Sometimes you need to just listen
Cool
to
down.
listen. I need to put on heavy metal music
Yeah.
and bang my head, or I need to pet my cat, or I need to just go for a walk. So your body knows what to do. But for the child with autism, they don't always know what they need, or they don't have access to it. So I created like an area where they could be calmly just popping bubbles on bubble paper, drawing over here, rocking in a rocking chair. So I created it, and parents have used it in their homes because it was so successful. So they've gone on to do that. So yeah.
Well,
Pathways to Peacefulness.
Well, that's my
your title.
that's my title.
It
there-
sounds like a book.
There's
you should
actually
you should write one.
I googled the name, and I think there's some spas out in California, so I can't use it.
Oh.
So I have to change it.
Now,
So
Not even for a book title.
PC, we'll work on it. We'll work on it later.
now, and I'm
No, but
sure
that's
I'm
incredible,
sure a
though.
lot of parents are grateful of this because having my family friend John Patrick, who is autistic, and he is a different type of autism. Well, I also have a cousin in Colombia who is, I believe, 13 or 15 now, and the whole time we thought she had autism. Her sister actually went to medical school in Colombia, went to the most expensive medical school. Now she's practicing that study that her sister has, and it's not autism at all. There's only like a few kids in this world who have it, and she's one of them. And she's in Spain right now, in Madrid with her family, and she did that. She went to college to
To
become
figure out, wow.
because of her sister, and not just that, but again, going back to the parents, because autism is not a easy journey for the parents at home.
No.
No.
I don't want to quote this, but from the experience that I had with autism, it separates families.
A lot of times, or it strengthens them because
It should. I feel like it should, but I from what I see,
the child with autism is like unique and a special gift. And there's a challenge. Absolutely, there's a challenge. And hopefully, you get the support to help manage it, because when you're raising a child with autism, you want the world to embrace them. Their world is different than your world, so you have to kind of manipulate things so that they're successful and they could be an active part. But once they're in that place where they can work through the world, amazing. The insight and the joy that they bring, there's an unfiltered pleasure, and just it's a very unique child. I would never say cure autism, because some of the most amazing children I've met have autism, and they just bring so much joy to their families' lives, and they're just such a special, unique. You just have to look at the uniqueness of it.
Yeah, there has to be a level of understanding of it, because from what I understand of it, at least Asperger's is the one that I
that's
know.
another
Like
one,
Clay Marzo is a professional surfer who
Yeah.
has Asperger's, and in the documentary Just Add Water that they made of him, they say, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
No,
you should.
I will
It's
look at it, yeah.
Extremely incredible documentary about him, and they say that the doctor at the end, or the therapist, or whatever, the psychologist says, everybody in this world should have a little bit of Asperger's, because if they did, they would focus better. They would be more
Well-
successful. They would be more passionate. They would,
It's that linear, and when you look at people who have achieved great things,
they have some kind of
you go to NASA and you've got cubicles of people.
Oh,
Like, so in
painters.
elementary school, they don't want to be around people, and we're forcing them to be around people. But when they're 35 years old and they're fixing the Hubble telescope, you don't have to be friends with me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they don't want you.
You need to be staying up and concentrating and doing all that. So there's the people. Asperger's is an amazing thing as well, but let's look in the future. Look at who's going to cure cancer is somebody with Asperger's.
That's really incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
Like the level of understanding you got to have, and then that's where you take your approaches after you understand what's truly happening.
Yeah. So the
That's awesome.
families, it's difficult,
Uh-huh.
and there's so many different levels. The spectrum is so broad, but hopefully there's support, early intervention. They're getting support they need, and
I feel like the community is really jumping on all together with a little bit of surfing and here
Yeah,
and
the
there.
Surfers with
Yeah.
Autism is amazing.
Yeah.
And right, like if you do that for one day, you're like, yeah, these kids were
Oh, and they're
fantastic.
smiling,
The
laughing.
love,
Yo,
oh
It's
right.
yeah, it
incredible.
is an incredible event. And the families are amazing. Like the love, the support.
And in shock
This-
sometimes. They're
this-
like, oh my gosh, I
the
haven't seen my kid this
siblings
happy.
of
Yeah.
children with autism are a whole and empathetic, wonderful, caring breed of siblings. So, yeah, some families it is it's a challenge. But I think that if you asked anybody, they'd say this child is my heart.
Yeah.
Now, because I know with your level of teaching, it's never gonna end. Do you think this is the next evolution? Is
Towards autism,
Yeah.
that it's definitely my heart. It's definitely where I want to go.
because this passion can never end. This
Yeah, I don't think it will. Yeah, I don't know where the next. I guess like my dream job would to have a landscaping program with a garden and hire people with disabilities,
nice.
and maybe
We
make
need- we
my
need to create that.
avocado brownie
Oh
recipe.
my God,
and-
We're actually I
avocado
live on 5
brownies.
acres with my wife, and it's her father's property, and we're right now her brother is tearing down a part of the 5 acres to plant like 25 avocado trees.
All right.
Because we already have 3.
There's
so
those brownies.
Oh, those
that
brownies.
we'll
I'm
have
saying,
never-ending brownies.
local, never sprayed land,
and we'll
organic.
put some bees up there, and
I'm
we'll do
telling you.
beekeeping.
Yeah, we
with
have a huge
them.
garden. I'd love for you to come out to the
Yeah.
property and
Oh,
check
yeah.
it out. It's,
well, you
it's
should
really
come
amazing.
when we get our new garden started. You guys should come out and
Yeah.
see
Hey,
because
Miss Weaver, I got some better news actually. So my friend with the vegan company,
Mm-hmm.
with the vegan restaurant, we talked to the Miss Ingrid, and she runs the farmers market in New Smyrna.
Yeah.
She's the one that does all the hiring. Hopefully by the end of this month, we're gonna have Imani's Vegan Kitchen in the New Smyrna Farmers Market, and it's a Puerto Rican cuisine,
that's fantastic.
along with all the many types of cheese that he has as well.
Oh, I'm gonna come. Oh, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, we're trying to get this started, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This-
you make that whole
this
farmers
community has to
market
have
like
it.
Oh,
a
yeah.
whole
I love the
healthy
farmers market.
alternatives. Like he was saying, like it's all about like time management and stuff. Have it if
Yes.
it's present. People
Yeah.
will
We'll
people
eat
will
it.
go there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I told it, and same in that episode when I went to a wedding, my buddy's wedding. They're all vegan, and they had like
Those
everything
brownies
was
were
vegan. Like the
delicious.
cake was vegan. I mean, it was some of the best cake, and I don't like cake. I
Right.
don't like icing, but this vegan icing was just like
I really want to
the
know
most
when you
amazing thing
make
I've
the
ever
next
tasted.
batch for the brownies, and when you give it to whoever you're gonna give it to. I want to
not-
know their reactions
not
because
gonna
you're not
tell
gonna
'em.
tell them.
I'm not gonna
Yeah,
tell 'em.
because no, you could never tell. Because I kind of I'm a little stuffy, but at the end I tasted it a little bit, but I didn't taste it. I felt it. I felt the butterness. Of
Yeah,
it.
yeah, the butter.
I didn't taste the avocado. I mean, because you're thinking of a brownie avocado.
that's just
Hey,
that
Max.
was an amazing. Huh?
I don't know if you're dying here,
I'm sure it's about to,
Okay,
maybe,
okay.
but I'll change batteries.
but Miss Weaver, I mean, I think this is all I have on my side of the book.
That's this was. I had no idea what to expect. I was kind of nervous actually at first.
Oh, I told you it was gonna be painless.
No.
it
It
was
happens.
painless.
It
was
happens
just like-
automatically.
it's like we're just talking.
We
Yeah.
are, no, and
Yeah,
not just that,
yeah.
but I never thought that I'd be so involved and so in just so like thinking about the future of our teaching, because I was a little misfits,
We
you
were
know,
not the
growing
best.
up.
Oh yeah, but you know what? I was too, and I became a really good teacher. But yeah, be involved, ask questions, advocate for kids. When things don't make sense, it's like question it and
Question
don't
it,
just
okay.
let it be. The school board will do whatever they want to do. They have their agenda, and that's again like public education is not their agenda, unfortunately. Let's put the money other places. So we have to let them know our voices have to be heard.
Awesome.
But don't. It's not abysmal. It's good. Those kids are wonderful.
Yeah,
And
no, and it's
Yeah, we did not
we
mean to like make
do-
it sound like it was super dark or nothing, but
No,
it's just
no,
it's
it
really
is.
I
amazing
feel like
how
we needed
things.
to hear
it's,
it.
it's hard, and
Yeah.
you can talk to. I had a group of friends, and there was a bunch of us who were runners. We were all runners, but a bunch of us were teachers, and the others were not teachers. And they were like, I can't believe how negative you guys are. I can't believe how difficult it is for you. These stories are horrible, and I can't believe how negative you guys are. It's like, well, this is our only chance to let it out.
And-
But we do have
What
to
a
be
slap in the
careful.
face, you know?
Well, I didn't even take it as a slap in the face, but just like we have to express the positive stuff
Yeah.
as well. There's a lot of good
Okay,
things
yes,
that are
of
coming
course.
out, a lot of good things that are happening, but pay attention
And not just that, but what I'm trying to say is because with our podcast and with people that are on the podcast, like I said, education has been the next step for their evolution. So if we don't treat
right.
education with the respect that it deserves
We're screwed.
and tread careful, because who knows what.
Well, when we talk about public education, it goes all the way to post-secondary too. So the same thing that's happening to money coming out of public schools going to charter schools is happening post-secondary going to nonprofit, like our state institutions and schools. Money is being filtered and going to the for-profit colleges. So like a Trump University kind of a thing. So it goes all the way up through. So you want a quality education, because we can't I can't prepare you for your job because your job doesn't even exist yet.
Exactly.
But I can prepare you to be
Wow.
educated.
Wow.
And,
Yeah. A good human.
yeah,
And understand
and a whole-
reality
right.
before.
and
Yeah.
take response. Yeah, I can.
Well, for example, Jesse Leone, episode 2 of our podcast, he's an aspiring architect. But he says on the podcast that when he went to college, even for architecture, they
Those
don't
programs
teach you
didn't-
nothing about reality. They'll teach you about
it
angles.
doesn't exist. Like
But that does not help. It did not help him at all. You know,
our
he
kids
said.
are working on iPads. You're not going to have iPads in a while. There's going to be completely different.
Well, I feel like that's also like doesn't help with the attention span. Like
Right.
if we had iPads growing up in high school and in middle school,
Oh,
and
I
when
don't
I
think
was a
we'd be- I don't think
stingray,
we'd be
I
sitting
wouldn't
down
have been
doing
able.
this.
You wouldn't
wouldn't
know
have-
how to talk to each other.
Exactly.
I don't think we'd be sitting down doing this.
I mean, like I said, we had agriculture in high school when I was in high school at the old high school. You know, before it got tore down, and that's one thing that just I always hold in my heart. It's like, man, that old high school was incredible.
There are some schools that still have pretty strong agriculture programs.
They need to. Never needs to.
Yeah,
It cannot
should-
disappear.
And we need to eat. We need to have farmers. We need to not make agriculture, like you said before. It's not a bad thing to be working in the land. And,
No.
and some of these kids, it's like how sports is for some of them. Like, I'm not good in school, but I'm good in sports.
Yeah.
I don't have to be good in school, but when you become a farmer, like I said, we tied it into everything. Math, you're doing
Yeah.
all kinds of things
You're
when you're working.
measuring
You're
and stuff like
measuring.
that.
You're doing chemistry. You're looking at the weather. You're
Soil
checking.
samples.
You're doing your soil samples. I
Yeah.
need potassium. I need nitrogen. So there's so
Science,
much that
yeah.
goes into it that you need to expose them to.
I really want to keep in track whenever you do this thing with Liam, and
Alright,
I'm
yeah.
shocked that he hasn't told us about this.
Well, because we played
Okay,
around with
alright.
yeah, it's not like a surprise for Liam. He knows, but we haven't worked out the details yet because he's going to
'Cause
come to
that's something
school.
that I would, because we always say the future is in our kids.
We
His-
would love
yes.
to film that, like for real. Like
Alright.
we would love to film that.
Alright,
Like
sure.
make it, and we'll do
Into
it
a
for
thing.
free and
Yeah, yeah.
actually,
Oh, yeah.
you know, release it.
Well, what he's doing is like that, the future. Like he's looking
No,
towards the future.
it's
and
incredible. What he's doing
and
is
It's a
incredible.
huge movement, yeah.
And,
Along with the vegan with Danny,
Yeah.
that's a movement that.
So you're like pulling the curtain behind the future here. You're like the wave of the future.
No, I really enjoy this.
Somebody needs to be right.
I really enjoy this because we're just sitting here and I'm just sitting here like I'm completely clueless of what's going on. I always have, because with social media right now, you tap into the curiousness part of it, and I tapped into the fact that I'm like, whoa, man, there's a huge problem out there, and that I can't do anything about it. So let's hear out. Let me talk to some people to see, how we can
Right.
contribute, because we're not just gonna turn the switch and boom, completely quit eating animals.
Right.
How do we transit? How do we commute to that road?
Mm-hmm.
So knowledge is power, and you're just like asking questions.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's find out, instead of just like sitting back and letting it happen.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's very good.
it's amazing
Th-
stuff.
This is
So
actually
you can call your thing like knowledge is power.
passion
or
project.
something.
This is a passion project, and I actually want to shout out to
Well,
Adam
they call
Forham.
it like the genius hour is what we have in school too. It's like, no, for 1 hour
I
you
like
put your
that.
books away and look at what you're interested in, and this is your genius hour. And maybe
man.
it's you're interested in, you want to build your own Minecraft thing. We'll find out how. And so they just unplug from everything
See,
else.
that's the real
and-
deal.
That's the real deal, exactly.
Because it exposes them, and it really brings their inside, what they really want to say out, and that's true expression. That's what kids need,
Yeah.
you know, to truly understand. You
Help
know,
them find their passion because
Exactly.
it's in there.
yeah.
And I don't
Yep.
think anybody like it's in there. Everybody has
Oh yeah, they have
has
it.
a passion. You just have
yeah.
it
Yeah,
buried
man, this is
underneath.
awesome.
I always
the
saw
rat
my
race.
passion was sports, this and that. So I always did the sports, and I always sucked at it. I'm like, man, why is everybody so good and I suck? And then I started working. I'm like, man, I'm actually really good at working. I can keep a job. I can show up on time, and at my age, you know, the kids my age, they couldn't do that. So I'm like, man, to me, that's nothing. I can.
You've
And I
been a
found,
social butterfly for a long
oh
time.
God, I started working at Mi Mexico at 13 years. So
Yeah.
I've been in the restaurant. I've been talking to people, and I
Yeah.
love it.
And ask them questions. So keep doing it.
Thank
All
you, Ms.
right.
Weaver.
Thank you. This
Thank
was
you
Yeah,
great.
Miss
so
Weaver,
much.
thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for being here.
It was
This
an
is amazing.
absolute
Awesome.
pleasure, an absolute honor.
Yeah.
Thank
There
you,
go.
everyone.
That was fun.
And we got some cheese for you as well.
Yes, I can't wait for my cheese.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.